Hi everyone, welcome to this new lecture of engineering economics. In this lecture, we'll discuss about advertising elasticity of demand. In the last few lectures, we are discussing about the elasticity of demand, the types of elasticity of demand. So in the types of elasticity of demand, we have discussed about that price elasticity of demand. Then we have discussed about the income elasticity of demand. Then in the last lecture, we have discussed about the cross elasticity of demand. Now we'll discuss about the advertising elasticity of demand. So this is actually, it measures how much quantity demanded of a product changed, the quantity demanded of a product changed in response to the change in advertising expenditure. That means if you want to change, if you want to increase the demand of a product, you have to go for advertising, and how much expenditure you are doing in the advertising, that need to be compared, while the other factors need to be kept as a constant. In the other factors, many factors are there. So the many factors like populations are there, or that land, or the capacity. So these are some factors which need to be kept as a constant. So this advertising elasticity demand, short form we can say AED, it shows that the change in quantity demanded as the result change in the cost of advertisement. Initially how much you are spending for the advertisement, now how much you are spending, and how much changed in the quantity demanded, that need to be identified. So you can calculate AED equal to a percentage change in quantity demanded. Initially how much demand was there, after advertising increased, what is the final demand, like what is the quantity demanded. So that percentage change in demanded divided by a percentage change in advertising expenditure. Suppose a company increased its advertising expenditure by 20%. Initially 100 rupees was there, now they increased to 120 rupees suppose, and there they found that the sale increases by 10%. Initially some percentage of 50% sale was there, now it increased to 10%, in sense 55% suppose. Now so in this case how we can find out the AED value. So AED equal to what is the change in the this quantity demanded, that 10% is there, divided by 20% the expenditure in the advertising. So how much we'll get, that will become like 0.5. So here the AED equal to the 0.5, that means the 10% increase in the advertising expenditure. So advertising expenditure, how much we have changed? No, here advertising expenditure where 20% we have spent actually. That means this 20% what we have invested on the advertising, that result in a 0.5 increase in the quantity demanded. So that is an increment of 0.5 AED value. So actually this advertising elasticity demand is divided into three categories. One is high advertising demand or unit advertising demand. Another one is low advertising demand, or you can say low advertising elasticity of demand. So let's discuss one by one all these things. So the first one is high advertising elasticity demand. So in this case actually the value of AED should be greater than 1. Then we can consider this is a high advertising elasticity. In this case, what we can write, the percentage change in demand greater than the percentage change in advertising expenditure, because expenditure is in the denominator and the demand is in the numerator, so that should be greater than this one, so that advertising demand is said to be elastic. It is also called as elastic demand. Now here also again we'll take one example, like advertising expenditure increased by 10% and quantity demanded increased by 20% of that. So here what will be the numerator 20 and the denominator 10, so we'll get a value of 2. So here the AED value is 2, which is greater than 1. So here we can say the advertising is very effective. So in this case it is called as high advertising elastic demand. So that means there is a relatively small increase in the advertising expenditure that produces a relatively large increase in demand. If you just invest a little bit more in the advertising, that may give you the better quantity demanded. So some examples are there, like new smartphones, drinks, cosmetics, fashion products. So there are many things can be considered in that. The same thing is given in the plot. If you see here, this is the x-axis given advertising expenditure, and initially that A1 expenditure was there. At that time, what is the quantity demanded? That is Q1 suppose. Okay, so initially your point was here in this graph. Okay. Now when we have the company invested a little bit, there is an increment in there, that's 10% here, They've invested on the advertising here. So that A1 shifted to A2. Similarly, at that time, what they found, the Q1 improved or Q1 increased to Q2 value. So now it's the same thing we can plot. If you just invested here and increment here. Now this is the value. So if you just join this plot for this line, these points, you get a curve like this. That is called here the graph for the high advertising elasticity demand. So this is what that AED greater than 1. The next one we'll see, that is about the unit advertising elasticity. In this case, the value of AED will be equal to 1. The value of AED will be equal to 1. That means the percentage change in demand is equal to the percentage change in advertising expenditure. How much we are spending for the advertising, that much increment also we are getting. So that is also called as unitary elasticity, because AED value will be 1 unit. So the demand changes in exactly the same proportion as the advertising expenditure. That's what I do. So we'll take an example for this also. Suppose the advertising expenditure increased by 10%. Similarly, the quantity demanded increase also by 10%. So here, what is the value of AED will be 10% by 10%. That will get the value of 1. So same thing here, like in the x-axis, if you consider, that is advertising expenditure given, and in the y-axis, the quantity demanded. So here also, if you see initially, what was the demand was there? Suppose expenditure of advertising expenditure is A1 at this point. So at the same time, our quantity demanded is Q1. So this is our advertising expenditure and this is the quantity demanded. But when you increase this 10% in the advertising expenditure, so that is shifted to A2, A1 to A2. Similarly, the quantity what was there demanded Q1, that will be shifted to Q2. So now we can plot this Q2 and Q1 here. So now if we join these 2 points, that will get a curve like this. So this is what AED equal to 1 for a unit advertising elastic demand. The next one is low advertising elasticity. In this case, the value of AED will be less than 1. Okay, greater than 1, equal to 1 and less than 1. In this case, the percentage change in demand will be less than the percentage change in advertising expenditure. The first example I have given in the advertising elasticity demand. So in this case, it is called as inelastic demand. So in this case, what? A demand increased by a smaller percentage than the advertising expenditure. So in this case, also try to understand by taking one example here. The advertising expenditure increased by 20%, but the quantity demanded increase only 5% here. So you can see the numerator is very, very less than the denominator. That means numerator is quantity demanded, so which is very less compared to the expenditure. That means advertising expenditure. So that value we will get here like 0.25. So these things is, there is no need of advertisement for some products. So that will come into this, like basic necessities like salt, rice, and some household products, which not require any kind of advertisement. No need to spend money on the advertisement. People definitely, the customers will buy definitely that product. That is not required. So that is not that much strongly influenced by the advertising. Same thing also you can see here. This is our x-axis value, advertising expenditure, and this is our y-axis value, quantity demanded. So the slope you can see there is a improvement, but very less. That means that you can say you can get finally loss the company. Initially this is A1, that advertising price, and that time our demand is very good. Okay, there is no issue in that. But when we invest more on the advertising from A1 to A2, but improvement in the quantity demand is very, very less. That is 5% only. Okay, so in this case you will get here, actually not this one, you will get value here to here. So at this point, this is our expenditure, this is the demand of Q2. If you join this, you'll get this one. Anyway, so this is about the low advertising elasticity when the value of AED is less than 1. So these are the 3 types of advertising elasticity of demand, and this is the theory related to advertising elasticity of demand. I hope you understand this lecture. Still, if you are having any kind of doubt and query regarding this, you can give a comment in the comment box. Thank you all.